Good morning. My name's Ryan Littlestone from forexflow.live. Now, the obvious subject to start with today is the coronavirus that's going around and the risk moves that's putting in markets at the moment. Obviously, a lot of focus on here. First off, we have to obviously take consideration about the human impact of this as well as the trading impact. There's a lot of worries in the market, as there should be a lot of concern. But what I'm going to talk about is that we're also seeing quite a bit of scaremongering and the market generally and the press generally jumping all over this virus as if it's some sort of the next plague of doom. As I say, we shouldn't underestimate the seriousness of this, but what you can get in this day and age is that the press does go overboard. I mean, it seems like every financial analyst has got a medical degree out of the cornflakes packet at the moment and throwing numbers about and how serious it must be. Or maybe. If we're going to look at things like this, when we do get these sort of events where there's a lot of fear in the market, what you have to look for is really the real details of what it is. So on the bottom line, the basic line is that this is a virus that brings on strong flu-like symptoms. It's looking quite contagious at the moment, but it's still got a pretty low mortality rate. So what we're not hearing a lot of is how many people are getting better. And there are cases, and lots of cases of people getting better and getting over this virus, fairly quickly. So when we look at all these things in a broad sense, then perhaps the fear is a bit overdone, as it usually is. So when we're looking to trade, we've got to look at what's happening in the market at the moment and really trying to keep a grip on that fear, because otherwise we start to panic as traders and we see prices starting to tumble. Now, to take an example of this, I'm going to look at the dollar-yen chart, the daily chart for that. And it's not really been on the same sort of bandwagon as maybe some of the other pairs, like the other yen currencies or the other yen crosses, if you like. It's been a bit more stable, if you like. It's still on the negative, and we've seen a bit of a drop today. But, we're not seeing a sort of cascade lower. We're not seeing a big push lower. Obviously, that's still tied in with what's happening on the US side of things, and we're still following bond yields a lot. But it's a fairly good proxy to see how strong this fear is. If we start seeing this pair start to collapse, down through 108 and lower, that's when we're going to see this fear ramp up. But again, as I've said, we need to see how this virus progresses, and obviously anything else that's going on in the world with the Middle East situation, for example, as we heard over the weekend. So just to briefly recap, on this pair that I'm looking at here, dollar yen, one of the big levels I've got on my chart is the 108 level. You can see it there in the red line. It's been there for quite a while. It's one of these big levels that we tend to have a lot of action around when we get there. It can be quite pivotal for the direction. If we get into that level and hold it, then that keeps the bias pretty much to the upside. If we break below and hold below, then we could have something different and we could be pushing further down. So again, just to recap the situation at the moment, yes, we're looking at this coronavirus. It is a very serious situation, but try to look through what's happening in the press and all the scaremongering stories and the big fear stories, and just concentrate on what's actually happening, whether people are starting to die more, if you like, a bit morbid, or whether this is just an illness that people are going to recover strongly from and it's going to have minimum impact. From there on, we can then plot to see if there's going to be any longer term economic impact to China and countries who are closely connected like Australia. But in the main, just try to look through the fear, see how it develops and take each day as it comes.